Hello. Looking at the webcam, I can't understand now why I had to wake up every single day, fighting my head on arguing with it as to why I'm not as ugly as I think. Now looking at this face with his lip movements, expressing whatever voice I'm expressing with now, it's surreal. Because looking at myself now through the camera, I don't look too bad, honestly. I won't say I'm handsome, but I don't think I'm kind of androgynous, so I don't know, man. But that's not the point today. And I can't believe I'm actually sounding more vigorous just by looking at myself, and the fact that I don't really recognize myself in a way makes this even more crazy. Is this healthy dose of narcissism, or am I just a narcissist? Who knows, man? But today I'm going to try to talk about Asian parenting. Roughly what it is like to be living under those conditions during the formative years. And I also like to just spend more time on just giving my opinion on what I think are the fatal flaws in this sort of system. Two disclaimers beforehand. First is that if the cap doesn't fit, don't wear it. Okay, okay. Meaning that if the situation or the culture that I'm describing doesn't fit you, then there's no need to just get offended and angry and defensive about it. But by all means, it's a free world. You can get as offended as you want. And honestly, in my head, if you feel offended, I actually feel happy in a way for you because that means you probably had a better time, or maybe you don't have, any troubles or problems with whatever I'm talking about, and you're just one of them, you know, it's fine too, as long as you're happy and satisfied in your current environment, that you're actually feeling offended that I'm criticizing a certain environment. You know what? At least you're not as miserable as I am, I guess. So that's the first disclaimer. But I guess the main reason I'm saying that is because it's not my intention to make the whole culture look bad, right? I might criticize it, but it's not necessarily my intention to bring the whole culture down. And probably inevitably it kind of will in my words, but it's like it's what I think are legit critiques based on my own experience, right? It's not as much of a dragging down, canceling moment as much as me trying to just maybe raise awareness about this sort of issue. I know it sounds pretentious, but let's just move on, shall we? So, the second disclaimer is that a lot of anecdotes and a lot of these stories and experiences, if I describe them, will probably 99.9% come from me because I experienced it, and in desperation um, to find out if I was crazy or not, I finally went up to the internet, and found very shockingly similar stories, especially when it comes to like emotional turmoil, such as mine, that come from Asians. And so I feel like a bit empowered to do this because in the past it has been so hard to even talk about this, even to myself, because you kind of feel like a scumbag because you feel like, oh, I'm bad mouthing my parents. Oh, I'm just blaming everyone else but myself right now. Oh, good job, good job. Like, this is what my head thinks. And probably they have a point. But today, let's just focus here. And I'm just going to talk about what I'm going to talk about, right? And hopefully, I don't know, hopefully, what will happen. But I want this to be a recording where even if I, jump off a bridge tomorrow, I would be happy that I did this. So, a bit heavy, and it's kind of like so weird because sometimes in the middle I might be like chuckling or something. I try my best, okay? So, excuse me. All right. When you first hear the word Asian, I bet a lot of non-Asians, the first things that come into their head when they hear that word will be, oh, Asians are great at school, they are great at STEM, math, um, science. Maybe the mental image is like they have their noses to a math book, they're academically gifted, and maybe, I don't know, maybe dominate the violins in the orchestra club or something. I don't know if that's true. Um, and I guess like the yin to the yang, when we talk about the flip side, it would be about how Asians probably are not very known for their social presence, and they're not very, in fact, if anything, people know us as being socially awkward, being very, what do you call it, agreeable. We do not tend to disagree a lot. We don't tend to fight for a stance a lot. We tend to be conflict avoidant, risk avoidant. We're not known to really self advocate a lot, right? And this all comes from the culture in general, right? And um, and now I'm going to kind of talk about what it is like to be living under such a system. And this is why when sometimes when non-Asians like white people who have a neglectful childhood, like a neglected sort of childhood, they say, "Oh, I wish I was like Asian or something, so that at least my parents would teach me discipline." Or, it kind of riles me up just a wee bit. Now, I'm gonna talk to my fellow Asians now. Again, fellow Asians where this applies when you feel this way. From the age of about when you enter elementary school, maybe 6, 7, to about when you're 18 in high school or even beyond that, probably even beyond that because university is like a mandatory at this point in an Asian family, right? So, do you remember at this span in your age, you're meant, no, you're made to feel like if you don't succeed in school, you're fucked for life. And so you kind of don't enjoy the most important years of your life or the formative years of your life. You actually don't get to enjoy it, in my opinion. And do you ever feel that you're made or not made to, but have you ever gotten the stink eye when you're you're spotted having fun or taking a rest? And have you been denied socializing and time for socializing and events because there's a tuition class in the way? And for God's sake, I haven't even gone to the tuition class thing. Are you part of the Asian, people's kids where after school, let's say you went to school and you had to start school at 7 to maybe 2 o'clock, and you still have to go to like tuition classes after that. Are you one of those people? And are you one of those people or one of those kids where your parents keep telling you that they worked so hard and all you needed to do was study? And this gets especially hard if you finally come down with a depression and all that, and all your parents are helpful for is just sitting on the sidelines and keep berating you that you're lazy. And you don't know what's going on because in an Asian sort of setting, in an Asian household, depression, this word, or mental illness, this term, doesn't exist in the Asian household. And even if they recognize there's something along the lines of mental illness or whatnot, it will be perceived as crazy. And you might even be threatened to be thrown into an asylum. Or just, how Asian parents are. They just spout crap that they won't really do. But you kind of believe that they'll do it because that's their genuine perception of what they like mental illness, what Westerners think of it anyway. And have you been in a position where you're genuinely just sick of studying and your parents will be like not having it? Because again, they might have come from a very impoverished childhood or they had to work to become what they are today and stuff like that. And that's why you have no right to feel bad. You have no reason to feel bad. You don't have the right to feel, you know, bad. And are you one of those kids who had their socializing time and playtime and hobby time severely limited and even belittled? Because hobbies are, let's say, if you're a creative person and you have the need to be creative, I genuinely actually feel sorry for you if you are born in this sort of upbringing style because creative is a waste of time, right? Socializing, playtime with friends is just jaywalking and, just waste of time, right? And are you one of those people who gravitated to video games because all you had is studies and you're so sick of it, you want to do hobbies and you want to do socializing and it's just so demonized and sometimes limited and banned that, you know what, let's go to video games. And even that, as the last source, like the last outlet, they still berate you for it because apparently video games are the work of the devil. And finally, I guess to close that notion off is that are you one of those Asian offspring that has been trained to keep your head down, don't do nothing, and make yourself inconspicuous? Are you one of those who were told to study all day long and have all kinds of tactics like emotional blackmailing and a lot of like back in the day we were so poor stories shoved down your throat in order to make you study? Again, severely limited outlets. And suddenly, when you graduate university or high school, suddenly you're expected to get a job, which probably you were banned from, especially if you're not from a Western country where it is more natural for you to go and find a part-time job because maybe your white friends are doing it and it's just in the, public consciousness somehow, so it's kind of a natural thing. But in my case, and in I think a lot of cases from where I was from, is that part-time job just isn't a thing. You're directed to study, study, and just study. If you drink every time I say study, you'll probably be dead by the end of this recording. And I remember just suggesting that, you know what, maybe I should get a part-time job just to, get away from all this just a wee bit. And they were so offended and angry. So basically, they ban you from socializing or limit you from socializing. They deny you a part-time job. They demand that you study, and after study classes, they want you to attend more classes. They ban you from any kind of like play outlet, saying it's just a waste of time. And it's funny too. They keep saying it's a waste of time, but your um exams and your marks, your grades keep dropping anyway because of how sad and just how depressed that you feel in a way. Okay, what did I say? They ban you from socializing, they ban you from part-time jobs, they ban you from any outlet, they demean any actual creative talents that you have, or ignore, or pretty much try to stomp down. They pile on more classes to you. They demand that you cannot feel unhappy because you've been provided everything. According to them anyway, because they've been through their childhood, they know what everything is, right? But not for you because you're experiencing this, and I think the only way for you to empathize with what they've been through is to kind of drag yourself down a bit just to feel what they were feeling and feel sorry for them, and somehow logically you should work harder, which is their logic. It's logic, but I guess in psychology it doesn't work that way probably. But so they ban you from all these things. And then and no dating. No dating. All right. And then when you come out of university, suddenly they will berate you for the complete opposite of reasons. They'll say, "What? You don't have a job? Where's your networking skills? What? Networking skills? Like, why don't you have any friends that could help you find a job?" And they would be like demanding grandkids. And when you're like depressed, they're like, "Well, what? You have everything." And then you kind of cannot make any, like, it blows my mind sometimes that this is so out there, but no one understands this. And what's more infuriating for me is that when they demand you to study during your formative years, again, it's to be fair, during your formative years, yes, school is a majority of your life, but I think in Asian sort of households, it's more neurotic. It's all about the grades. And that's why when you think about, oh, Asians are so good at school, I invite you and I challenge you to think again what that means. Because these kids are kind of ingrained to think that if they don't succeed in school, they're a nobody in life. And that is why when you think about statistics when it comes to academics, suicide from academics is pretty much occurring in Asian countries. And even I think I read once even in the US, Asian Americans tend to kill themselves more, even though they're just a few percent of the population, thanks to studies. And that's how high the pressure is thanks to their parents. It's not as much as just pressure as the mentality they're ingrained with, that if you don't study, if you don't get grades, and if you don't, do well in school and very well at school, you're gonna be starving, you're gonna be this, you're gonna be that, you're gonna be just, it's like a fatalistic sort of scenario where they tell you if you are not good at school, you're pretty much nothing at life. As opposed to maybe, I don't know, some white kid who can go, they're actually encouraged to go into trade, like trade school or some kind of specialization, like even plumber and whatever. And white kids are really allowed to dream. And I'm not saying all, right? But and I that is very generalized, especially in the world, the climate nowadays. Oh, you're encouraged to dream, like so easy. Yes, 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 I know that. But still, in such a climate, in such a cruel world, harsh world, like white kids, black kids, non-Asian kids are still allowed to kind of dream. While an Asian household, the kid is, you know, the joke and the meme where they say that in an Asian household, you are either a doctor, A, B, lawyer, and C, engineer, or D, you're a disgrace to the family. And while that is funny because I think comedy really does come from the truth somewhat, that's unfortunately without any nuance at all, is how you feel as an Asian kid. You're made to feel that way as an Asian kid. If you're not one of these three things, or maybe an accountant or whatnot, you're just nothing. And that nothing is more than nothing. It's something that scares you because you're like, oh, if I don't do well at school, I'm going to die or something like that, you know? It's just this fear that your parents have ingrained in you, you know? And what's the most infuriating thing is that our parents would claim time and again during their berating sessions that we are preparing you for the real world and the cruel, harsh real world. But in reality, in hindsight now, they've done but, anything but. And to play a bit of devil's advocate here, which I tend to do because I tend to like really kind of empathize with people in a way, which is my biggest flaw, honestly. But I get it. My parents were like, my parents were Asian boomer parents. They had to work their way up from poverty, and I guess back then it's easier to just get a job anywhere. And they got to middle class. Credit where credit is due. They got to middle class by working and experiencing whatever they experienced. They worked their way up to a middle class sort of financial stability, and they had us. And here's where I think the saying that the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is where it comes in, is that they will keep telling you, we went through so hard, and so that you won't go through what we went through. We worked so hard so you don't have to. What's wrong with working hard? What's wrong with experiencing things more than just studies, right? But they, again, and this is made worse by the fact that my parents were the only child in their respective families who really wanted to go to school. Like, really wanted to go to university, actually. And they couldn't go because they were poor. And I find it interesting that their multitudes of brothers and sisters didn't chip in to kind of send them to university. Which is another topic in of itself, right? It's like dog eat dog, and if I can't be up there with you, I rather, you know, won't let you go there, sort of pettiness, in my opinion. But it's another story for probably never. So this is kind of like how it is like, roughly, to be in an Asian sort of household, right? And again, to play a bit of devil's advocate, I kind of get it, you know. Asian parents kind of want to go on the well-trodden path, and you, I think what happened was that my parents were born in a poverty-stricken family. There was a lot of brothers and sisters, and during the 60s, 70s, I think, after World War II, mandatory um, education was starting to become a thing. People, more and more people are starting to go to school, as opposed to my grandparents' generation, where they literally don't see any value in school because in their head, in their mindset, is that, you know what? I tend to my chickens, I tend to my plants, I can eat them, and I can sell them, and that's my living right there. I can see what I make. I can, you know, put my effort in, and money comes out. So, what up? And I get it. And then when it came to our parents' generation, I think that is where they start to see lawyers, doctors, engineers around them, practicing ones, of course, and they see their Rolexes, they see the cars they drive, they see the, you know, good houses they have, and they see how put together they are in a way. And of course, my parents wanted that. And I bet a lot of people wanted that as well. And these professionals, they call them professionals, are few and far in between, right? Lawyers, doctors, engineers, and guess what's oversaturating for us Asians today? The world in general, actually. Lawyers, doctors, engineers. Come on. There's an abundance of them because, you know, the parents all send their kids to university. They all want them to get out, right? When I say get out, I mean in the sense that because not from the US, I'm from a third world country in a way. They want us to get out of that country, and that's why they keep sending us to foreign universities. They also kind of like quote how it is, our local universities are trash, and that's why they send us out there. And again, it's a very good intention. Unfortunately, this is where I hate myself. I don't know what it is, but I never seem to have any desire to grasp the opportunity, if you will. I don't see opportunity. All I see and all I feel is pain. And I realize lately what has been happening to me. And this is why I encourage people, and this sounds so sanctimonious and pretentious coming from me, but I really believe what I'm saying when I say that stability first before, kicking them out to do their own thing. Because I think Asians in general are less mature when it comes to independence because of this culture, right? All your life, all you knew was studying, and suddenly you come out and like you berated for to study all the time, and now you come out you berated for the complete opposite, and you're like, what the fuck is going on, right? And for people who feel this way, I do empathize with you because I've been through the same, obviously. I've no friends, and at a certain point in my teenage life, I've kind of conditioned myself to be comfortable, to be content without any friends. I kind of learned how to cope with that. And now they're demanding, why don't you have friends? Stop spending time on your computer. As if, socializing on computers and being like anonymous, being truthful, and socializing on the internet is a thing, and I don't know it still. Whenever there's a fuck up, whenever there's something they don't like, oh, it's a computer game. Oh, it must be the computer, right? When you're sick and you want to like, of course, when you're sick, you're supposed to be nursing yourself back to health. You're supposed to just de-stress and stuff like that. And apparently you can't play the computer when you're trying to get better. You see, this is what they keep limiting you. You don't have any outlet. You're expected to just give, 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 and no outlet. And when you're an adult and whatever you feel, you have this deep seated and deep rooted sort of complicated sort of emotions that are negative whenever you try to have fun or to let go because of how you were raised when you were younger, how you were treated when you tried to have fun or to let go. Now, as an adult, you can't really de stress properly, and it's also your fault that's that way, according to them. Mental health to them, I've talked to them multiple times and just gotten my heart broken again and again. Mental health, and I hate to use those words because it's so medicalized nowadays, but in their words, depression or mental illness, they'll tell you stop thinking negative things and you stop feeling sad. That's the extent of their understanding when it comes to mental health. And you know what my mother said to me once? She was frustrated, I get it. But she actually told me that, do you want to be sent to the asylum? And she named a famous asylum. It's kind of a meme, that name was, but she would quote this asylum, do you want to be thrown into there? And she conveniently also mentioned that there's some patient in there who got in and got pregnant. So she basically kind of threatened to send me there while saying, hey, there's an inmate or there's a patient who got raped in there. Do you want to go in there? Hmm? So tell me, how it is any like. And it gets frustrating because they tell me to tell them, like, trust them. Tell them whatever you're feeling. And then and then you tell them and they don't understand. And not only do they not understand, they kind of belittle you and say that you're spoiled and say that, you know what, this is nothing. It just tells you to stop thinking and you'll stop feeling sad. Like, very idiotic sort of responses. And then they might also respond in a way that doesn't make you feel safe, you know. Sometimes they'll say like, again, it's like the asylum thing. They probably think it's another passing thing that they say, which is what they do, and their generation, you know. I don't know if you understand this, but in Asian, especially boomer Asian parents, they kind of just spout whatever they're thinking, and they don't really mean it. And it kind of infuriates me that I know they don't really mean it. They just say it to feel better, but it's inside my head and it won't go away. Because if you want to say something, you must have meant it in some way, shape, or form, right? That's unfortunately, I think, what my mind thinks. And you know what? I'm just going to expand on why it is hard for Asians to self advocate. And it's because it's ingrained in the household. And this took a long time to figure out. And again, it might be like, what? You're just trying to make excuses. Like, look how much you're just talking. Like, I hope you will understand that whatever I talk about now has taken me years to finally kind of figure it out. And a lot of time, a long, long time before I finally am able to verbalize it because I don't know, like I thought I was better than this, where I guess that's the case of every person who suffers from this, huh? We all thought we could power through this, but apparently we could not, you know. To be fair, some could, like my elder sibling, which is a story for another time, which probably I'll make into a series. Why not? Right? But for us to have been left in the sidelines, god damn, man. It can be hard because you're alone with this. Not only you don't have friends, you believe that if you just keep spouting the same thing to your friend again and again, if you have one, they'll go away. Because, like it or not, whatever I'm suffering from is not, it's literally like things that people do not fathom. Like words can make you feel so worthless that you want to just not exist. Like, what is that, right? So to go on that passive aggressive sort of, let me expand on why I think we're agreeable, we're passive aggressive sometimes, and we do not really fight for what we think is right or what we think we want. And that is in the household. And I really encourage you to try to understand this, right? I think passive aggressiveness is probably the go-to when it comes to Asians communicating. And of course, I'm not saying all Asians. And this can get generational because if you're raised in a household where you have no room for opinion, you've been trained not to offend, especially your elders, and that's probably all you have access to when it comes to your social circle. Your elders, your uncles, your aunts, your parents. And that's because there's a hierarchy system of seniority. And if I want to just point out a very good example, will be, and they got this to a science that you can literally see in front of you, right? There's even terms for it, which is the Japanese. I'm going to go to the weeb shit now. So it's like in Japanese, right? They have this senpai and kohai, and they literally have this language system where if you address someone more senior than you must use um uh the appropriate suffix like san, like Yamada-san or something like that, right? And there's also like nuances in the language where you have to use certain words that are more formal, and it can be a sign of disrespect if you use like more casual and crass words when talking to someone elder or more senior than you when it comes to rank, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I can get the culture in a way. So they got this down to a science, and you can see this. And this is more like a spiritual form and psychological form in the Asian household, and um, where you are expected to obey your parents all the time, which I get, even in white families or not, that's probably what you should have done. But you're not allowed to have your opinion. You Even if your parents fuck up, if your parents are doing something wrong, you're not really allowed to point it out. Of course you're allowed to, but it's like, there's like an invisible hand of authority that makes you cannot, you know. And then there's also this thing, I don't know how to describe it other than the culture of knowing your place, quote unquote. I don't know how to describe it other than that, right? It's like a culture of knowing your place. So that, you know what, if I don't belong here, if I'm not good enough to be here, I guess it's not my place to be here. And that is why Asians are not really known for their social presence, are not really known for their assertiveness. And I think Asians are very disadvantaged when it comes to, asking for a raise. And even I read stories where this Asian really deserves a raise and she doesn't know how to ask for it, and her parents actually scolded her for even trying because she's looking for trouble, or she's like, I don't know what's the word. I read this story where her parents actually berated her because she would be like making the employer dislike her or something and maybe will fire her or something, and she's working the hardest, like she's the hardest worker in that company or something, which is heartbreaking. You can't even advocate for yourself. You don't know how to. Honestly, you don't know how to. Because all your life you've just been taught to work, work, work and not enough, just work harder. And when it comes to interviews, when it comes to arguing for your salary and asking for a raise or something, you don't even know how to quantify your worth. Because all this time, either you've been told by the person who's supposed to value you the most, your parents, not only you've been told by those people that you're worthless essentially, you're also made to kind of feel worthless. They might not say it in words, but it's like, you know, oh, it's just expected. Just do it, Even if it's expected, it's never really acknowledged. I guess that's a very right word to use. So you're never aware of what? Worth? What do you mean? And that is why a lot of Asians feel worthless. And again, to stick on the topic of passive aggressiveness, I think, because you literally cannot express your opinion, you cannot offend the elder, you cannot like you just cannot express yourself. What's left but passive aggressiveness? Maybe you just sulk and be unhappy, or maybe you're pulling a long face as they say and you don't even know it because you're just that unhappy that people can see it, and then hope the whole thing blows over or something. They never apologize too, and that is the same mode that they use where they just pull a long face and sulk and hope that things blow over. And it's almost like the only mode left for communicating, where you're just so you feel like your mouth is caged, and all you can do is to kind of like, signal with your body that you even try to actively suppress, right? Because it might look unsightly, unbecoming, and then passive aggressiveness. And even that they will berate you for because they don't like to see you, sulking and unhappy or whatever. So basically, in an Asian household, it's almost like you feel like an achievement robot. And you're expected to feel, or not feel happy, but rather you're expected to not feel unhappy because you're supposed to be grateful for everything. And then, yeah, that's pretty much your life. You're not an individual. You're made to feel worthless unless you do what they tell you. which is study. And when you don't understand why you feel so burnt out, so depressed, so messed up, they keep quoting their past, like their life stories and how they went through harder than you did. And basically, kind of, I don't know what psychological trick this is, but they kind of reel you back in by these techniques, maybe emotional blackmail too. And then you come out of all this schooling, and suddenly you're expected to have all the things opposite, total opposite things of what you were banned from. No, you're expected to have all the things that you were banned from when you're during your formative years. And then when you don't have them, you get berated again. And by this time you're probably an adult, a physical adult, and you I guess there's also this added weight and added worthlessness feeling to you because, hey, I'm an adult. Why can't I get this shit together? Oh my God, right? Because they're logical. It's true. Logically, you know, it's true what they're saying. But at the same time, I guess, in hindsight, a lot of us don't realize, you know what, this is all you're doing. And now, as I'm an adult, I realize it's too late and all that. And that's where suicide comes. And I know some people who, yeah, I know. God damn, I know. And how horrible these parents treat their children just because they're children. Like, just because they pop them out, basically. I had to talk this guy out of jumping off a building because he lost his girlfriend. Imagine that. And I get it for a guy, losing a girlfriend is maybe more painful than a girlfriend losing a guy or something. Because, a girl is pretty much universally kind of like, let's just say people are more likely to be, let's just say women are more likely to be lesbians than guys are to be with, like, to be gays. There's actual there's an actual statistic out there somewhere. I remember reading. It's like women are universally more attractive. People call them the fairer sex, right? So I think it's harder, especially in the climate nowadays, for a guy to get a girl than a girl is to get a guy, I think. I think it's always been the truth, right? When you think about it, like evolutionary and all that. And that's why, a lot of, I don't know, man. Maybe this is a sexist talk, I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it's, I get it when a guy has a girlfriend and loses him, you know. It's hard to attract another female and they might feel that. I'm not sure. But what I am sure about is, Asian parents deploy this technique of, you know what, it's my job to tell you the truth, while no one else will, because I love you, or we love you. And so it's like, I don't know what it is. They think they're helping us by telling, quote unquote, the truth. And what it does is completely just achieve completely the total different result, which is that we feel worthless, we feel like we ain't shit. Like, is it so hard to just deploy one genuine sort of expression of, hey, I'm proud of you? And I don't know if you're me, but at this point, when they say I'm proud of you, you really don't believe it because it sounds so superficial now and you know how they are. And it can get kind of sad. Again, this ended up to be some sort of a rant that went nowhere. You know what? Next time I'm just gonna rant about what happened to me. Not really much, but I guess it's worth talking about, don't you think? Just for my own sake. Okay. So again, before I end this, I really challenge you people, those who want to be parents or about to be or are, to just bat for your child's team for once. And honestly, if you have this feeling where you don't want to know, and maybe you shouldn't have like children, honestly. Because I think a lot of Asian parents are also jealous of their own kids for some reason or another. Like, I get it in a way because they're living the childhood that they've given them. And when the Asian parents are children, they didn't have it as good as, the children they popped out now. And I get it. Like, I keep seeing this. And I keep talking to people with issues with their Asian parents who just don't listen. And they care, but they don't care. Like, they don't show it, even if they care, which is, the same as, not caring, I guess, if your children do not know it. There's some children who eventually shut their parents up by proving them wrong one way or another. And there's some children who just keep conforming. And there's some children who also cut off their parents and never came back. And their parents are still scratching their heads, going, "What the fuck? Like, what?" And it just astounds my head. Like, do you not know? Ugh. But either way, maybe I'm crazy. But looking my face now on the webcam is really like it reminds me of my mother, which is really, really creepy to me. Oh, shit, I have the face, don't I? I'll end this recording right here. But again, I challenge you people to just, care more about your kids, man. Like just talk to them and ask them about their day, empathize with them. Don't like if they kind of talk to you about it, just at least before one of your smart ass advices, at least just show that you care. Like actually express like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. That must be hard." How hard it is. Like how hard is it to just even say that if you don't mean it? Like just imagine yourselves in a kid's shoes, which I think it's like an epidemic of Asian parents who forgot that their children are kids and they themselves were kids at one time. It blows my mind. It's like they want their kids to act like adults when they're kids and wonder why they, you know, grow up to have all these issues. Am I the only one who sees this and I'm not a fucking parent? Man, I sound so sanctimonious and pretentious and whatever. Ugh. I'm just going to stop this recording before I go ballistic. Alright. Maybe it's just me, but maybe I feel too much for people for no reason. And I guess this is why I just, It irks me to no end. If only there's just a bit more love in this kind of upbringing, this sort of system, instead of just pushing you like a drone to accomplish this and this. And it's like, if you have this roof tiling, your house will be beautiful and you'll be happy. But then, so it's like that. They kind of push you into studying, and they expect you to come out and say that, oh, once you grow up, once you had your degree, you'll thank me. And then you come up with a degree, and if anything, you want to do anything but. So it's like, oh, if you have this roof tiling, if you work to have this roof tiling, your house will be beautiful and you'll be happy. But have they not ever thought that, yeah, roof tilings are great, and yes, they're beautiful, they might make me happy, but where's the foundation in order to set this up so that it will stay there? Where's the foundation? And what's infuriating, of course, they'll say that they're trying their best to set you that foundation long ago when they forced you to study 24/7. Again, there's so much more than just book smart. And this is where I think Asian parents really failed. I think my tone kind of got very scathing, but it makes it so much easier to be scathing because I'm looking at myself again. I see my mother on my face, and I'm like, oh, it's like looking at my mother berating me again, or my father. And I don't like that. It's like, it's not like I don't like that, but it's like much more easier, right? When you see them in yourself, and when you look at the camera while you're talking, it's almost like they're berating you again. It's like this sort of fucked up familiarity. So you'd rather stay there because oddly enough, it's like safe, but not safe, but safe. I'll stop rambling. Every time I go on these tirades, I always go for about 1 hour. I'll just stop this. Oh my god. I wish you well. Take care of yourselves if you know what that means. Just try your best.